Hey guys, what is up? It's me, J.M.A. Grenades. I'm the author of teen drama, mystery, sci-fi, thriller that's going to be out at some point this year, although hoping for September of 2022. Do you like my content? If so, click the like and subscribe button and ring the little bell to get notified of when I upload. I upload every single Tuesday, and any extra bonus content will be uploaded on every other Thursday. So, today we are going to be doing something awesome. I personally think it's awesome because this guy is like one of the best American writers in American writing history. He's a great poet. There is a writing novel award named after him. Yes, you guessed it. I'm going to be reading a short story from the late legendary Edgar Allen Poe. And yes, this is the complete collection. Because this is a special kind of book, I will read the excerpt on the back here really quickly. R.I.P. Edgar Allan Poe. Hopefully you are somewhere better. Did some odd things when you were alive, but I do hope you are somewhere better where you can rest peacefully. At least I hope you can, considering your bones was like, what was that? Anyways, okay, so here it is. Edgar Allan Poe is regarded as one of the foremost American writers. The stories, poems, novels included here span the breadth of Edgar Allan Poe's unparalleled imagination. From the gothic horror of the classic short story, The Telltale Heart, and his macabre poem, The Raven, to the enticing murder mystery, Murders in the Rue Morgue. And other works such as the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. This fascinating collection showcases Poe's lyrical writing and masterful plotting. Mysterious, morbid, and undeniably fascinating, the tales collected here are a perfect introduction to America's master of horror. So, as we all know, this is going to be my disclaimer. This is my very first time cracking open this book. Before today, I actually didn't even read any of his pieces, which is weird because I've known about him my whole life. I've always wanted to, and then my best friend got this for me as a Christmas gift a couple years back. And as I said, this is my very first time cracking this open. So my dear wonderful friend, if you're watching this, thank you so much. The short story that I will be reading today is actually called Silence, A Fable. It's only about 4 pages long, but have you guys seen this monster of a book? Holy cramoly, like look at that, look at that. Without any further ado, let us go into the mind of the legendary American horror master himself. Listen to me, said the demon, as he placed his hand upon my head. The region of which I speak is a dreary region in Libya, by the borders of the river Zaire, and there is no quiet there, no silence. The waters of the river have a saffron and sickly hue, and they flow not onward into the sea, but palpitate to forever and forever beneath the red eye of the sun, with a tumultuous and convulsive motion. For many miles on the other side of the river's oozy bed is a pale desert of gigantic water lilies. They sigh one into the other in that solitude, and stretch toward the heaven their long and ghastly necks, and nod to and fro to their everlasting heads. And there is an indistinct murmur which cometh out from among them, like the rushing of subterranean water, and they sigh one unto the other. But there is a boundary to their realm, the boundary of the dark, horrible, lofty forest. There, like the waves about the Hebrides, the low underworld is agitated continually, but there is no wind throughout the heaven, and the tall primeval trees rock eternally hither and thither with a crashing mighty sound, and from their high summits, one by one, drop everlasting dews, and at the roots strange poisonous flowers lie writhing in perpetrated slumber, and overhead, with a rustling and loud noise, the gray clouds rush restlessly forever until they roll a cataract over the fiery wall of the horizon. But there is no rain throughout the heaven, and by the shores of the river there is quiet nor silence. It was night, and the rain fell, and falling it was rain, but having fallen it was blood. And I stood in the morass among the tall lilies, and the rain fell upon my head, and the lilies sighed one unto the other in the solemnity of their desolation. And all at once the moon arose through the thinly ghastly mist, and was crimson in colour. Mine eyes fell upon a huge grey rock, which stood by the shore of the river, and was lighted by the light of the moon. The rock was grey, ghastly and tall, and the rock was grey. Upon its front were characters engraven in the stone, and I walked through the morass of water lilies until I came close unto the shore, that I might read the characters upon the stone. But I could not decipher them. And I was going back to the morass, and the moon shone with a fuller red, and I turned and looked again upon the characters, and the characters were desolation. And I looked upward, and there stood a man upon the summit of the rock, and I hid myself among the water lilies that I might discover the actions of the man. And the man was tall, stately in form, and was wrapped up from his shoulders to his feet in this toga of old Rome. And the outlines of his figure were indistinct, but his features were the features of a deity. The mantle of the night, and of the mist, and of the moon, and of the dew, had left uncovered the features of his face. And his brow was lofty with thought, and his eye wild with care. In the few furrows among his cheek I read the fables of sorrow, and weariness, and disgust with mankind, and the longing after solitude. And the man sat upon the rock, and leaned his head upon his hand, and looked out upon the desolation. He looked down into the low and quiet shrubbery, up into the primeval trees, and up higher at the rustling heaven, and into the crimson moon. And I lay close within shelter of the lilies, and observed the actions of the man. And the man trembled in the solitude, but the night waned, and he sat upon the rock. And the man turned his attention from the heaven, and looked out upon the dreary river Zaire, and upon the yellow ghastly waters, and upon the pale legions of the water lilies. And the man listened to the sighs of the water lilies, and the murmur that came from among them. And I lay close with my covert, and observed the actions of the man. The man trembled in the solitude, but the night waned, and he sat upon the rock. When I went down into the recesses of the morass, and waded far among the wilderness of the lilies, and called into the hippopotami which dwelt among the fanes in the recesses of the morass, the hippopotami heard my call, and came with the behemoth unto the foot of the rock, and roared loudly and fearfully beneath the moon. And I lay close within my covert, and observed the actions of the man. And the man trembled in the solitude, but the night waned, and he sat upon the rock. And I cursed the elements with the curse of the tumult, and a frightful tempest gathered in the heaven, where before there had been no wind. And the heaven became livid with the violence of the tempest, and the rain beat down on the head of the man, and the floods of the river came down. The river was tormented into foam, and the water lilies shrieked within their beds, and the forest crumbled before the wind, and the thunder rolled, and the lightning fell, and the rock rocked into its foundation. And I lay close within my covert, and observed the actions of the man. The man trembled in the solitude, but the night waned, and he sat upon the rock. And then I grew angry, and cursed with the curse of silence the river, and the lilies, and the wind, and the forest, and the heaven, and the thunder, and the sighs of the water lilies. And they became accursed, and were still. And the moon ceased to totter up its pathway to the heaven, and the thunder died away, and the beginning did not flash, and the clouds hung motionless, The water sank to their level and remained. The trees ceased to rock, and the water lilies sighed no more. And the murmur was heard no longer from among them, nor any shadow of sound throughout the vast, illimitable desert. And I looked upon the characters of the rock, and they were changed, and the characters were silent. And mine eyes fell upon the countenance of man, and his countenance was drawn with terror. And hurriedly he raised his head from his hand, and stood forth upon the rock and listened. But there was no voice throughout the vast, illimitable desert, and the characters upon the rock were silent. And the man shuddered, turning his face away, and fled far off in haste, so that I beheld him no more. Now there are fine tales in the volumes of the Magi, on the iron-bound, melancholy volumes of the Magi. Therein are glorious histories of the heaven, the earth, and the mighty sea, and of the genii that overruled the sea, and the earth, and the lofty heaven. There was too much lore of the sayings which were said by the Sibyls. And the holy things were heard of the old by the dim leaves that trembled around Dodona. But as Allah liveth, that fable which demon told me as he sat by my side in the shadow of the tomb, I hold to be the most wonderful of all. And the demon made an end of his story. He fell back within the cavity of the tomb and laughed, and I could not laugh with the demon, and he cursed me because I could not laugh. And the lynx which dwelleth forever in the tomb came out there, and lay down at the feet of the demon, and looked him steadily in the face. Wow, that was beautiful. Wow. That was very beautiful, I gotta say. That was beautifully well written. Good going, Edgar Allan Poe. Nice. That is all I got for you guys for the day. And if you like this kind of content, hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to be notified of when I upload, ring the little bell button that comes with this video. I upload every single Tuesday, and any extra bonus content will be uploaded every other Thursday. And you guys have yourself a good one. I cannot wait to read more of this Edgar Allan Poe stuff. Can't wait for you guys to listen to me read and stuff like that. So have yourselves a good day and have fun. Bye.